Thank you for such an auspicious welcome. Welcome to the Voice Over the Day audio podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks. I want to say welcome to the podcast with an eye on the culture. Guess what? We're discussing relevant issues, trending topics, and we do our thorough investigative journalism like we're about to do today. I want to say shout out to all of those of you that are going back to school. I want you to tune in to the replay of this past Sunday's The Voice of Hope Connection, where I give a special message of encouragement and inspiration to all of those who have gone back to school. And of course, you can reach us every Sunday morning right on WPBmedianetworks.com for our Voice of Hope Connection. It's just an inspiring word to help you get through the week. And if you love it, on Friday, Straight No Chaser, it's the Voice Over Now podcast, where we deal with issues. We take the issues. We don't do redactatory for the most part podcasts, but we do our own investigation and we give you it. We give it to you straight and no chaser. I want to say thank you for liking, sharing, following this. We're going to get into it today. Don't say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, y'all. Say it ain't so. But before we get into it, like, share, follow, subscribe to the channel. Support this channel, which gives many of us a voice all over the world, all over the nation. Shout out to April J., CEO and owner of WPBmedianetworks.com. If you're looking for a platform, a quality and integral platform to get your voice out, check it out. Check out April J. Go to the website and all the information is there. Follow us on our social media. That's on Wake Up Global Networks on Facebook, Wake Up Global Networks, The Voice Over Pod on TikTok, The Voice Over Pod, and Wake Up Global Media on Instagram, and WGNINC on X. Now, let's get into this. Y'all, listen, I'm done. I'm over it. Say it ain't happening. Today's discussion is because they have your skin, don't mean they have your back. Because they have your skin color, don't mean they have your back. Now, I want to preface this by saying several weeks ago on my Friday, the Voice Over Now podcast, I had Veronica Tucker Scott on, and we did a special, and she did a tremendous job with the subject, sex, what is gender, race, or other. We were talking about Kamala Harris and her nomination, and would people vote for her because of her gender, because of her race, and because of other, not wanting to vote for Donald Trump. And we had a very intense discussion. And today's discussion is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that topic up, because qualification has to be somewhere in the mix. Now, I'm not saying Kamala Harris is not qualified, but what I heard was a lot of people were and are voting for her because she's the first woman, she's the first black woman, mixed, and all of that. And I wanted to have a broad discussion. Are these the right reasons to put people in office minus being qualified? You say, D. Foster III, what are you talking about? This is what I'm talking about. D.C. Councilman Trayon White not indicted, but arrested on possible bribery charges. Let me read an article for you, and from Fox 5 NDC, some details. And this is why I'm saying because they have your skin don't mean they have your back. Now, this is kind of personal to me because many of you know I am a native of D.C. and I am familiar with the territories. And before I get into reading a clip of this article, Trayon White was councilperson in one of the most disenfranchised, gets me, one of the most disenfranchised sections of D.C., Southeast, we call it across the river. One of the lower income areas, not like Northwest, not like Southeast, no, but Trayon represented people who were quote unquote cut off from mainstream and was supposed to be a voice for the disenfranchised. But let me get into this. And this is why I have to go back and defend, though I got some criticism, my conversation with Veronica Tucker Scott when I said, are we voting for Kamala Harris, because she is female, because she is black, or because we don't want Trump? But somewhere in all of those, there must be qualifications, integral checks, character checks. And I'm not saying she's none of that, but I'm making a point, and you'll see my point. Councilman Trayon White faces bribery charges for allegedly accepting $156,000 in cash payments. Now listen to this. In exchange for using his position as a D.C. council member to press government employees at Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, that sounds familiar, to extend several D.C. contracts. Now, first of all, I think it's very important. I did some research. In D.C., the average council person's salary is $115,000 a year, probably 4 times more than the constituents that he serves. In a statement, White's office asked for support and understanding at this time. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I think that's the problem, that we are too understanding when we're not supposed to have understanding, and too judgmental when we're not supposed to be judgmental. It is especially a betrayal of him because he touted, the article reads, by one of the council members, himself as a man of the people, and yet he was stealing from people. Former D.C. Councilwoman Mary Sheff says, I agree. I mean, if you know anything about D.C. politics, he was the quote-unquote Al Sharpton of his district. Talked about the oppression, talked about the disenfranchisement, stood on the line, did the boycott, did the protest, spoke truth allegedly to power, and yet getting cash for contracts. And you asked me why I did a podcast on whether people were voting for Harris because of race, gender, or other. I may do part 2 because this raises an issue. And I'm not saying she's guilty of none of that. I'm not saying that. I'm making a point. I'm making a principle that we have to stop looking at skin color and look past gender and look at the qualifications in the character. And I could go deeper into this. Court documents include photos. How you going to deny that? That appear to show White taking envelope stuffed with cash. I could name names. This is bringing up deja vu, especially in Baltimore, but I won't. Selling the community out for money, the people that you're supposed to be representing, and you want that district, that disenfranchised district that is suffering gentrification across the river. Berry Farms is being renovated, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I know about all of that. And instead of you fighting for affordable housing, you're taking envelopes stuffed with cash. Here it is. I go on to read court documents include photos that appear to show White taking envelopes stuffed with cash. He is accused of pressuring government employees to renew several violence intervention contracts. So the question is, while you were fighting for violent intervention programs, did you really fight for violence intervention programs because you cared for the youth, Trayon? Or so those contracts could be extended and you could reportedly get 3% of those contracts? Wow. And those programs were worth $5.2 million. Ward 8 resident Ryan Stewart says it's unfortunate. Now listen to this. This is unfortunate to me. He's selfish, but he's also helping the community. That's an unfortunate statement, but that's his opinion. I think with all the politics at a federal level, you got to take the sacrifices where you can get benefits, and that sucks. The money isn't the only concern. The FBI arrested White from a southeast apartment building in Navy Yard. Very expensive. You know, they redid that Navy Yard in D.C. Now, many people wondering if he lives there because it's not in Ward 8. The council members are required to live in the DC. This is an integrity issue. And yet, we have somebody saying he's selfish, but he's helping the community. Or is he helping himself? So you represent people in a district that you don't want to live in. He lived in Southeast, a very affluent, regentified neighborhood in DC. You lived in Southeast. That's basically fraud. I don't agree with that. That is a bad look, Stewart said. That aspect of his life reduces my sympathy for him because it's kind of like, what are your true intentions? Are you trying to better yourself or better the ward? Now this is reasonable. Ward 8 deserves a better council member. They deserve someone who will represent them and do something for Ward 8. And he's not the guy, said Chef, former council member. There's still a lot of questions about whether or not White will be able to stay his position. He was released under the agreement that he had to surrender his passport and 8 guns. His next court appearance is the 19th. Now I understand, and I end quote, innocent until proven guilty. But according to the code of the District of DC, council members make $115,000 a year, and yet they show you stuffing large amounts. And I have the amounts. I don't think that's relevant, but one time he took $35,000. One time he took $5,000. It was several amounts of payments. And so the whole purpose of this podcast, like, share, subscribe, follow, is as we're coming up on election times. And I just want to make a statement, and this proves my statement. Just because they have your skin don't mean they have your back. This is ridiculous. This is a betrayal once again of the trust of especially disenfranchised. I remember the time in DC where they were fighting to keep open the only hospital across the river. And when that hospital I went into, it was deplorable. I wouldn't have kept my dog in that hospital. These are the kind of conditions: lack of fresh vegetables, lack of grocery stores, while you're stuffing envelope full of money. And you wonder why I made a podcast, race, gender, or other. All right. I'd like to hear from you. thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, follow. Don't forget to check us out on this coming Friday, 5 p.m. is the very live upload of the Voice Over Now podcast. Until then, this is D. Foster 3 saying, you have a voice. Keep lifting it.